This is Iorì Wase Profiles. I'm your host, Abigail Jacobs, joined on this episode by Jody Jacobs. Listen in for our conversation about her passions in the multi-generational family approach to community support. We cover her journey from being a young mother to the primary caregiver for her mom as she progresses through dementia. So today we are joined by Jody Jacobs. She's become a fostering member of a number of community support groups and initiatives, but I've always known Jody because she's one of my many, many cackling cousins from the Jacobs clan. Thank you for joining me today, Jody. How are you?
I'm good. I'm holding back the cackle.
Don't do it. Let it go. Let it fly.
I've become more reserved with my cackle.
Unless we're all sitting around a family table, then you just can't hold it back.
Yeah.
If you could just tell us a bit, we always start with, tell us a bit about your family.
So I am a mom of 3, a grandmother of 5. I've been married since 1998. I was actually a teen mom, which was challenging. I went through a lot of self-doubt throughout that time until probably I was maybe 30, 35, when I really, said, oh, okay, look, I did this. These are my choices and, all of that. With my first child, I really thought about what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. Not that any teen mom's choices are beneath me or above me or whatever.
Everybody has their journey.
Everybody has their life's path to lead. But I really chose to be a mom. Mm-hmm. So I knew that I was going to commit myself to this, to being a mother as best as I could.
Yeah.
I think that actually led me to doula because as people know, I am a trained doula with the Gawandi Shastan Serawis group in Ganawage.
Yes.
Which is a wonderful group of women whose purpose is to support any woman in their journey of becoming a mother or even loss, because that is part of it. Mm. So I think I wanted to be the encouragement that maybe I didn't have. Not so much didn't have. I didn't readily hear about it. It's like almost a stigma as a teen mom. It's like, oh, you're shameful, whatever. Yeah. Because you're copying from a generation of my mom where it's like, oh, woo, you don't do that, sort of a thing, because it's generational. And I could reflect back now and see how the generations have changed.
Yes.
Like how a coworker of mine once put it. She said, well, it's a baby and babies are happy things.
No matter what. No matter a baby what. Is always good news.
Yeah. Yeah. Regardless of the circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you put that first and foremost, then you can make your choice from there for how you're going to be a mom or if you choose not to be a mom. Mm-hmm. That's totally your choice. And I think that me choosing to be a mom also allowed me to respect people's choices.
Yeah.
Like I'm not here to say that you have to do what I did or you have to do what this book says or you have to do what this says. But you have to inform yourself about all of your choices.
Yes.
Right. And know where to seek out the information and know that you're not alone in this journey of, I don't know anything. Mm-hmm. Like we've all started from that. You don't know anything but survival. Right.
Yeah. I find it funny too how you say like becoming a teen mom and mm-hmm. getting stigma from maybe at the time it was your parents or anything like that. And the funny thing to look at generationally as well is that I'm sure that when your mom and dad started their family, they were quite young, were they not? I mean, generationally, as you go back, the couples started and families started young and young and young.
Yeah, 18 or, some women in that generation would be married at 17 and have their babies, right away. So I was 16. I was 15 when I was pregnant and I was just newly 16. So barely 16. I still say I'm 15. That. Yeah. So, it was, I had dropped out of school and I was having issues with, I guess, school and, just
As
being
it goes.
rebellious, Yeah. and there was no taming me, I guess you could say. But that's a whole other issue, right? That's a whole, I know where that behavior came from.
Yeah. So you grew up as the only girl in a family full of brothers.
Oh my God, it was horrible. No.
So tell us a bit about your family growing up.
I'm the youngest of 3 older brothers. And now that we're adults, we all have different experiences as you have different relations with your parents.
Yep.
I remember raising my kids. I'm going to go back raising my kids. And one of my children would say, well, how come you don't do this? Or you don't yell at this one for that or this and that? And it's I've always said, each child is different. So they need to be reared in a different way, right?
Yeah.
So your relationships.
Can't treat everybody the same way.
Because we're all different. So I was really fortunate in my family. Growing up in New Jersey at first, we always had family living with us.
Okay.
So we were a multi-generational household, which I'm going to get into later. That I highly believe that, this generation or our parents' generation sort of pushed away from that. But, growing up with 3 older brothers, I was, I guess, encouraged in a way, I could say that I was spoiled, but spoiled in a way that wasn't materialistic or say temper tantrum, but spoiled in a way that I had a certain level of digging in my heels and, saying that this is how it's going to be. And that's how it went. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not necessarily being so bratty as you would, spoiled in that way.
No, but you were supported and you were given your care and love. You were spoiled with love and support.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
Yes, I was spoiled with confidence, I guess you could say. Which is sort of a heavy burden.
Oh, yeah.
It's a heavy burden when you talk about how everybody expects you to be a certain way. And that goes back to me being a mother again. Yeah. It's you have this pressure of needing to succeed, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but learning how to fail also is difficult.
Well, especially, and I mean, the majority of our lessons and the most important lessons come in failures. And to have to face failures, especially being a person who's always been so supported, to be confident and to have that confidence in your decisions. Failure's not really an option.
And also it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you could stay in this little unit that your family believes in you so much that you don't really have to go out to get any sort of, I don't want to say validation, because it's not validation, really, any sort of extra experience, branching out. So, and then moving here, my mom's family mostly is in the States. She does have family here in Kahnawake because her mother is from Aguasasne. Okay. Originally. But her grandmother is from Kahnawake. So my mother's grandmother's from Kahnawake. So cool. Yeah. So moving here, my mom's family, where we're always so close, she comes from a large family as well, 10 children. Yeah. Yeah. So I have tons of cousins on both sides. But living there, because my grandmother always lived with us or next door to us.
That's in Jersey.
Yeah, in New Jersey, we were always the hub. So everybody was always there, in and out, and get-togethers and everything always happened at our house. And then moving here and having a different family structure. Because our family is close. Our family, we know each other. But it's weird how we don't go out of our way. Yeah. To just pop in.
Well, and especially because our family here in Kahnawake, we come from, and that's to get into the big family tree, but your father was Roy Jacobs. Yeah. My father, Martin, who were brothers, and they were part of a big
10 children.
10 children as well. And
majority boys.
Yes. Yes. And so that huge family tree. And then, especially when you go down into them all having their own families and everybody branching off and all these kinds of things. And it's hard to, especially like you're saying, you come from that where you're the multi-generational house. and everybody comes.
Yeah.
Now you're moving here and it's all over.
I was talking with Uncle Walter one day and he said, you know what? It was almost like two separate families. Because the older 5 were already like starting to go on their way, right?
Yeah.
They're building families and, you know, all of that. And then Uncle Walter was, I think he said he was the oldest of the younger group.
Yep.
So
of
like
this big 10-child family.
Yeah. And then Istal lived with us. So now talking with our parents' cousins, kids, you know, they say, oh yeah, we used to go there all the time. And I was like, damn, I missed all of this. You know, like we used to be there all the time because Istal was there. So that was their their Dura too, right? Their Istal. So yeah, I was like, yeah, we would go there all the time and we would have soup and, you know, we'd go play at the rink or whatever, you know, pop in at Auntie Josie's and yeah. So it's like, it was cool to hear that because like for me, I didn't experience that.
Yeah.
We moved here and then it was like, okay, it was all the younger kids and then, you know, the older kids were all doing their thing. So I was like, oh, okay.
And so now, and of course now, you know, as you travel around Ganawagin, there's always that thing where it's like, you have to make sure with your parents, that one's your cousin. That one's your cousin.
And that's something that like, there's always somebody in the family who knows everything, right? You call them up. I'm grateful for my mother-in-law because she's like a mom to me too, right? I'm lucky. I have several mothers in my life who have contributed to raise me and I take bits and pieces from everybody, right? So like she knows everybody. Or even my husband's grandmother, I was very close to her too. So she always knew everybody, you know, and you could just pick up the phone and say, who is this person? Who's that family? Oh, you're related. Da-da-da. And this is how, you know, it's like crazy.
So now I love that you're speaking of, you know, coming from a family where it's support and coming from this huge network of women and people who you're banded together and taking experiences from. And I see you now working with Planet Consulting, which is an all-woman-led company pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
And tackling numerous projects within the community. How did this company come to fruition?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for sure because it's not my company, but Charlene Sherman always wanted to, she's very community oriented.
Yes.
And that's where I guess we bond over that, right? Like selfless, community oriented. She is much more of a go-getter than I am. You know, it's like, okay, give me a list of things to do and that's what I'll do. You know, in a way, I can be a go-getter. This is the
role that you're playing though.
Yeah. So right now, what I am working on part-time is the KPELCC, which is the Kahnawake Partners in Early Learning and Childcare. And it sort of, it resonates with me because I look at it from a point of view as I want to inform families. I want to build strong families because families are the foundation. And I go back to me choosing to be a mother. So I am the foundation of my family.
Yep.
Being a doula, I want to build strong moms because they are the foundation of the future. And this just ties into, you know, early learning, 0 to 6. They need to be emotionally supported. They need information. They need to be encouraged and, you know, get information out there. The way that it can come off as not being so institutionalized.
Right? Like how you mentioned already, it doesn't have to go by a book.
It doesn't. And like, I'm not necessarily a traditional person. I wasn't raised that way. However, I long to be that way. So in my life's journey, in my path, I'm learning as I go along. And it's funny how the more that I learn, it's like that's my life anyways.
I have this conversation a lot with my father and where we talk about, and because of, again, the way that he was raised and how you mentioned with the 10 kids in the family and the whole community and all these things. And we talk a lot about traditional values. And then we always have to, and I think that's something in Ganawage that you have to end up differentiating where it's like, okay, but there's like traditional, but then there's traditional. So there's like people who follow traditional in the sense of going to Ganusesne and all these different teachings and culturally traditional that way, but then also just traditional in the sense of like old school family raising and the way that things were back in the day and the values and the cores that you get and how those things do end up coming together to be the same thing, where whether you make it to Ganusesne to learn those teachings and things in that place, or whether you're learning them just from your family and the values that you have instilled in you and your beliefs, they all end up becoming that great set of core things that we're going to work from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's like the beauty of Kahnawake or any First Nations community, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I often joke, I say, you know what, the government made a bad boo-boo by putting us all together, you know, because we're together and it could be bad and it could be good, right? But when it comes down to keeping values alive, regardless if we weren't allowed to practice our ceremonies or things like that, it was still inside of us.
Yep.
You know, because we're connected to this earth here. Yeah. You know, and I just think that that's even if say things were different and, you know, Indigenous people were all over North America, you know, spread out, not just regulated to living on reserve. I think that we would have a different connection because we are from this earth as opposed to the settlers who aren't, you know. And that's why they could move clear across the country and you know, not make it to big family events, you know?
Yeah, and everybody has their different frames of reference that they're coming from and their different cultural backgrounds. Yeah. And that's great because that makes the world.
For sure.
And for us, it just seems, you know, as for Ngwahuma people, it just seems that intrinsically we always come back down to these kinds of beliefs and like the kind of work that you're making sure to, I guess, promote and support with your project that you're doing.
Also, it like helps me, right? Because of, you know, you talk about intergenerational trauma, right? How your parents raised you, how you raised your kids, and me being a grandmother at such a young age, I know so much more now than when I had kids. And that's the beauty of my role as a grandmother now.
Yep.
You know, it's like I get to be another safe space of teaching for my grandchildren, you know, like, you know, they just, the shut up and don't cry about it, the way that I was raised and the way I raised my kids, you know, like most people were like that.
There's a threshold for crying. Every mother can reach.
For sure. And that's where duras and grandmas, you know, and istas and, you know, they step in and they're the person who's going to have the extra patience. And, you know, I just think that my life has had a path that was already chosen. I totally believe that. And I had children young and I'm able to be a grandmother young, but I'm also able to care for my parents, you know, and still have the energy where I don't have little ones to raise. Yeah. You know, so it worked out in my favor and in my parents' favor, you know, in that way. And my grandchildren. Two, I think boundary setting is an issue for everybody, even me. I preach boundaries, you know, but I have an issue with saying no. And, you know, I think that's just an Ngwe woman too. You know, it's like, yep, bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Don't worry. Let's keep on moving.
Let's get it done. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned now that you have this opportunity to also take care of your parents, and your mother, Georgette, is now living with you. Yes. As she progresses through the stages of dementia. Yeah. And how was the process of making that decision to have her move in with you?
So I waited so my father passed away in 2017. My mom was probably officially diagnosed around 2015, I believe. Okay. But prior to that, she had signs, right? And it was only when my father called me, you know, it's like, okay, the little boss daughter is coming. She needs to take care of something because that's my role in the family.
And it's so funny, right? Because you're the youngest of all these brothers. And it's like, no, we need to call, you're calling Jody.
Yeah. I got the title of boss. I'm the boss baby, the original boss baby. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, not that, we decide things and I'm fair. I'm extremely fair and I'm logical and I'm able to take emotion out of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, I can do that. And when I can't, I say I can't. I can't be objective, But 2017, my father passed away, and we've been discussing it. I have been discussing everything. I force the conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But, luckily they sort of listen or they don't. I don't know, but I think they do. Talking with my mom. So before, when she was able to make the decision, like, what do you want to do? And when it comes to that time, and I get it. She was afraid and she was like, like, well, I don't know.
And especially, and that's the hard thing, right? Because they're your parents, they're adults, they're totally autonomous, and they still, to make this transition into the next phase, and especially to get a diagnosis, like dementia, to know that this is what's coming at you, but to still want to have your autonomy and to still be, the parent.
The parent. I'm lucky though. My mom she's very passive by nature, right? She'd go with the flow. Mind you, she does have a very stubborn streak. Oh. And I'm
wonder
learning
where you got it from.
Right? We talked about it and she said, well, I'll just hop around. And she was referencing the late Ginger Delarone and how she lived with all her kids. She went from home to home and, it's your week now and everything. She said, I like to do that. And then my brother Randy said, well, Mom will just move in with me. And I'm like, no, he's great. He's a great help. And so, I kept her at home. We allowed her to stay home for as long as possible, but it came to a point where I can't run two households. It was getting crazy. The things about dementia is that if you look in her living space, it was like, whoa, this is what her brain looks like.
Huh.
So every day it was taking all of her clothes out or, having them all over the place. And because like her life was laundry and dishes.
Yeah.
Not that that's a bad thing.
No, but she was a homemaker.
She was a homemaker.
It's what she knows.
It's what she knows. Yeah.
It's part of her core of regular
her
schedule routine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So even now it's funny when she I'll give her a basket of towels to fold and it's like, oh, this isn't my mom anymore. It's a little, but I look at it as, like I'm learning. So yeah, it's sad sometimes. Of course it is. Oh, I could just imagine how scrambled her head feels, and that's a lot of it. So when it was probably December, right before Christmas, and that was my in, I'm strategic.
Okay.
I'm strategic. So it's Christmas. Oh, Mom, Christmas is coming up. Winter's coming. Why don't you just stay with us over the holiday?
Yep.
So she stayed. And at this point, she really needed extra help with, she had home care at that time.
Okay.
So she needed extra help. And it was just, a matter of time before it starts to get worse. Mm-hmm. So she stayed with us over the holidays. And, the holidays were a bit sad. And being with her 24/7, now it was like, oh, okay. You could see how she's processing things and she's not quite understanding who people are. Yeah. She does. She knows they're familiar, but she doesn't know their name,
My sister always laughs because she'll see you guys out at the bank or at the post or something. And so she'll go, hi, Auntie Georgette, it's me, it's Carrie Ann. And she turns, I know who you are. Yeah. And she's like, oh, good. She's like, I don't want to upset her or anything. She's like, I know who you are. Yeah.
But she'll say that and not really know. Oh. That's the funny thing. It's funny.
We won't tell her.
No,
we won't tell Carrie.
Don't tell Carrie. Yeah, she'll say that. Or she'll say, I don't remember who they are. Who are they again? After she said, yeah, I know who you are. So it's funny how dementia or Alzheimer's, any degenerative brain disease like that, I think people need to talk about it more.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I really wanted to talk with you as well, because you have all these different things. And that's the really cool thing that honey, like I'm impressed. You're one of my role models because you've gone through, as we've said, raising your family.
Yeah.
And you worked your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And you bust your son off to lacrosse all the time.
Oh my God.
And you got your daughters through the crazy years in the private school.
Yeah.
And then you found your time for, okay, my kids are older and you're going to start doing passion projects. And you're in this with Planet and doing all of your community engagement and doing your doula training. And now finding time to still have that the multi-generational family with taking care of your mom through this transitional phase.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fortunate though. Like a lot of people don't have the opportunity to leave a job and say, okay, I'm just going to.
It's scary.
It's scary. It's really scary. But let me tell you, I loved my job. I did. But, it's like it was time. It was time for me. I was in a different phase of my life. My husband and I finally got to know each other, really, because you think I was 14 when we met and he was 20. And
he was older.
That's another thing that I had to deal with, right? It's like, oh my God, now that I'm older, I'm like, what the hell?
I would kill my kids.
Yeah, just being able to have that honeymoon phase, right?
Yeah.
We didn't get to have any of that. We had kids and all other things and life and going through his addiction and, all kinds of things. So I could write a book.
You probably should. This is what I'm talking. I'm like, yes, get her in.
I could write a book. But Peter and I share all of our story.
Yeah.
All of it. All of it. Anything, we don't care. We want people to know that you're not alone when you're struggling through any of those life's challenges, because although you may see somebody walking down the road, they have it all put together, believe me, nobody has it put together. Nobody. We all struggle.
Yep.
We all struggle. Imposter syndrome. That's my big one.
Oh,
I struggle with that, like, as of late.
Well, and especially living in the society that we do right now, where it's all like, get the perfect smiling baby picture and get the pictures for the social media, but really behind the lens and off the phones.
Yeah.
Everybody's a real person.
And, one of the things that I would love the community to challenge or create or have is like a whole week without any internet.
Imagine. Oh my God.
Like a whole week of just unplugging and going visit your neighbor.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up the community watch issue thing. Okay. I get it that people don't feel safe, but I always feel safest here in this community. And it's because we all know each other. And I think that the internet, the connection, the younger generation, perhaps, I don't know, it's just my thoughts because I'm a thinker, about how disconnected they are. People don't help their neighbor. People don't say, you have your kids with you and say, oh, that's so-and-so. They live there.
Yes.
And like, I get that there's a lot of traffic in the community, but we have economic development. We have all kinds of other things going on. Tourism, we invite people here. We want to show them that we're friendly. I get it. You don't want people on the back roads. I totally agree. But you know what? Google Maps is there.
Yeah. It's part of where the world goes.
Where the world is going right now. And if you don't take your children on a walk through your neighborhood and say, these are the people, knock on their door, say, hi, my name is so-and-so. This is John Deere. I don't know. This is your neighbor and he's an okay guy. If you have a problem, you could, we've always taught our kids. I was just very laissez-faire with my kids, more or less. It's like, we were the young parents, so we always had all the kids at our house. Everybody was in our yard playing soccer, baseball. We had the pool and all of that. We had babysitters galore in the neighborhood. So it was like a community. We grew up in a community.
Yes.
And I find that we've lost that somewhere.
Well, and especially it's hard because most of the kids are on their devices. Their communities are now online. And whereas we as the parents do still remember this small gap of years ago where it was pre-internet and that we did still have that community, neighborhood. And I think that's what a lot of people are longing for, especially as they see the world moving on and moving forward. And we as Ganawagironu still remember that and have that, again, traditional values instilled in us of what we want safely for our kids and to have that network of community members that we can depend on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think there's just ways to do it that are more natural. We don't need another organization in the community. We really don't. We don't.
No, we just need to know our neighbors.
We need to know our neighbors. We need to know our neighborhoods. We need to know our sections of town because we're growing.
Yes.
We're growing. Mm-hmm. And it's a great thing. It's a great thing. I just think that, communication is key and not shutting down and having a set of guidelines. No, that's not the way life can go. You cannot go by a set of guidelines. You can't. Life is just too crazy. Mm-hmm. But going back to the internet thing, I think it's more dangerous on the internet. And your kids, you're not watching your kids on the internet.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing that I have on my head.
All right. So we have a list of all the things. And these are probably projects that we're going to start seeing popping up soon again because you have all of your groups and things that you're moving on.
I hope. I'm trying to take a little time right now, though, is just like slow down because I have a lot on my plate with my mom.
Yeah.
And, I just want to, it's becoming more difficult for me to work with her being there. Like, dementia is a funny thing. Oh my God.
I love all your
it's
posts.
Funny.
So, and I love that, like you said, your family is an open book and you like to share as much as possible.
Yeah.
I love seeing that.
Yeah.
And witnessing your transition into, this caregiver for your parent. Mm-hmm. And were there any kind of resources or things that you found as you're going through this journey with your mom?
So prior to COVID, she used to go to the Elders Lodge.
Okay.
And I'm going to go back to organizations. And I'm grateful for the organizations that we have, but I really think that they're dropping the ball on people like myself.
Yeah. For your situation.
For my situation.
Again, not everything can go by one guideline.
Exactly. And I think at this point in time, I think for me, I live my life by benefits versus risks. My mother has limited years left. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'm not afraid of her getting COVID. She's double vaxxed, whatever. I'm not afraid of her getting COVID. I think twice about hopping on a plane, but believe me, it's in the back of my head. It's like, I want to go places with her still.
Yeah.
It will be challenging to bring her because she gets anxious sometimes. So I know that there's going to be a point in time where I can't, where I'm not going to be able to bring her. She'll feel better just being home.
For sure.
But I also think that by me spending all of this time with her, yes, she gets annoyed with me. I get annoyed with her. It's sort of like teenage years again. But the roles have reversed.
Yeah.
And I can't. And you can't scold her. And thankfully, my children help and my brothers will help. And my husband's a saint. Because
he brings her ice cream.
Yeah. And like, my doula training is great because you can apply just being somebody who's there for someone else. And that's really, like the main thing.
Yeah.
Just being there without any ego, without any judgment, without any purpose, just being there for somebody else. And that's really what's keeping me, going and being able to tolerate and being able to handle the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows, just to be there for her and make her feel safe.
And being a doula, you mentioned your doula training. And there is a group of women in town who do have doula training. Doula is different from midwifery.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. We are non-medical support.
Okay.
So we are emotional, sometimes physical support. Knowledge keepers, knowledge carriers. We will find the information for you if you need recommendations. I think every woman should have a doula for their whole life.
Yeah.
For their whole life.
Not just for birth. Yeah.
Not just for birth. For your whole life.
Yep.
Your whole life. you know.
Have you gotten to assist in any births in the community?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. I've had several clients. Yeah, it's all different. And again, I come from, my whole world has sort of shifted.
Mm-hmm.
I understand regulation. I understand contracts. I understand the purpose of them and everything. But for me, you know, if somebody comes to my door, if somebody asks me a question, somebody wants some information, I'm not saying, well, you have to sign this contract. You know, it's like, I don't know. I just think that, yeah, it's,
You're
struggle.
there and you're able to help.
I'm there and I'm able to help. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If people wanted to be able to find you or to find these groups, where can they go to find more of everything that we've talked about here, the doula and the early childhood and all these kinds of things, to find these resources? So
everything is on the Facebook, the ultimate communicator, I guess.
Yeah.
So the KPELCC has Facebook and Instagram. Also through Planet Consulting, they have a Facebook. So you can see any projects that they're promoting at the time. And you know, like we've done several different things. We have our hands in a lot of different things over there. You know, we were doing surveys for DEWA, consultation, all kinds of different projects. And that's what really, from my 9 to 5, same old, I needed something that was change and also community oriented.
Yep.
Without any really big strings attached, you know, so I could be in and out, you know, like, and just be a little part and see things, plant a seed and watch them grow. Basically.
Yeah. On your own terms.
Yeah, on my own terms. And I think that's a lot of what Planet wants to evolve to. Yes, we're going to have our clients and, you know, all of that, but this is the feeling that I get from Charlene. You would have to ask Charlene for sure. But
we'll put her on the list of people I want to talk to.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God. She has like tons of big dreams. She's like a big dreamer. Big. She thinks big all the time. Why can't we? Going back to organizations, they're so stuck in this book of rules. And it's like, okay, hold on. Rules don't fit everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. And they have to be able to be modified. And they have to be able to include so many different people. You know, and maybe that's why you have different grassroots. You know, that's where things like Gawandi Shuts Don't Start always came in. You know, it's like we're grassroots. We don't have any core funding. Everything that we do is either we look for funding for it, or our clients pay us to offer our services, you know, so it's not a job. It's a community benefit. I think it's really a community benefit. And we are on Facebook and Instagram. Our Instagram isn't that great, but Facebook, we are on Facebook. There's a group. You can follow us. And we always, all of us, we all post interesting articles, encouraging words. You know, you could inbox any one of us. There's a list on there that has all of our names. So yeah, we're on there. The KPELCC Facebook and Instagram as well.
And it's all out there and it's all accessible.
It's all accessible. And usually the KPELCC, we have different campaigns throughout the month. So this month we're doing a month of kindness.
Nice.
Yes. And I think that really ties in with the climate of the community right now. You know, kindness, just going see your neighbor. Kindness doesn't have to be huge. It could be the simplest thing as saying good morning when you're on your daily walk in the morning. Yeah. Yeah. It's like when Charlene and I, we used to ride our bikes in the morning, but I don't anymore because, you know, I have other commitments. But yeah, I would make it a point. Everybody who passed, regardless if they had headphones on, regardless if they reciprocated the good morning or hello, I don't care. I'm spreading it. Yeah. I'm spreading that kindness. You know, if I can make somebody say, oh, look, somebody said hi to me. Acknowledge each other. You know, don't be the Walmart people where you go like this because you see somebody from town.
It's a small difference. It takes a lot of confidence and courage. But once you start doing it, it becomes normal, and it does. It spreads kindness, and it brings everybody just that little much closer together.
Yeah, yeah. And it makes you feel good, too.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. You overcome a fear. Overcoming a fear is big. It's big. Because once it's done, it's like, holy crap. I feel good. I accomplished something, right?
Yep. And it's worth it.
It's worth it, for sure. For sure. So, yeah.
That's the words of wisdom that we have today from Jody. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening. I'm Abigail Jacobs with Iorì Wase Profiles. Iorì Wase would like to thank the Community Media Strategic Support Fund for supporting this initiative.
The views and opinions of the guests expressed in this podcast do not reflect those of Iorì Wase and its employees.